So it looks like Microsoft is actually, all their hard work is being paid off. And they're selling some pretty decent amounts of Xbox Series S's and X's. And I want to talk about that. But before we get on to the video, you guys know what I'm about to say. Definitely hit that like button if you guys enjoyed this video. You can always subscribe to the channel for weekly content. And don't forget to go over there and follow me at Twitter at LordAddictILP. And you can also watch me on Twitch at Iron Lords Podcast. So without any further ado, let's talk about the future of Xbox. What's going on, you guys? Gaming Ad here, coming at you for another video. You guys know what I'm about to talk about. There's been a lot of speculation and rumors going on. I wouldn't say it's technically rumors. So let's go ahead and back it up a little bit. Phil Spencer said in an interview, I don't know what interview it was. I think it was with like New York Times or something like that. I don't know. We're not necessarily going to talk about what he said. We're going to talk about the outcome of what he said. He said that Xbox Series S and X seems to be at the height of all the Xbox consoles, and it's selling the most out of them all. So people did a little bit of math. You know how the internet is. You give them anything, they're going to come back with some type of content, and they're going to argue about it on Twitter. And with that being said, people did the numbers like I said, and it looks like Xbox Series S and X is sitting down around about maybe anywhere from 12 to 13 million, just depending on who you talk to. But that's not really besides the point. All we know right now for a fact is that the consoles are selling well. All of them. The PS5, the Xbox Series S, and the Xbox Series X. Sure, the S isn't selling as well as the Xbox Series X, but it's still selling relatively good. I've heard it did very well on Black Friday. So, you know, we got to look at the standpoint if Microsoft has took the bad publicity that they got last generation and they slowly took all of those bad pieces off the board, and now they got a fresh board. They got actual good publicity going around the Series S and X, and not necessarily bad. And I think a lot of it has to do with Game Pass. Now I see a lot of people sitting here trying to act like, you know, the Xbox Series S and X, I'm gonna call it the Xbox Series. The Xbox Series consoles and the PS5 is like $1 million or $2 difference. Look, I think in September, October, or even August, they actually came out and said that the PS5 sold like, I think it was like 13 million or something like that, maybe a little bit more than that. So you got to assume through the holidays, they probably pushed out at least 5 million more. So we can't act like Microsoft is word for word, console for console with them. I don't necessarily think that is. And I think if you're trying to push that narrative, there's something wrong with you, because at the end of the day, it's nice that they're this close. Sure, Microsoft isn't in the millions that they are in the millions. I would say Sony's probably in the 20 millions. That's my personal opinion. I'm probably wrong by that, but I would say that's where they are. But it's good that Microsoft is even close to this, because one would think after the bad publicity that they got for the Xbox One that lasted years, it wasn't just a couple years, it lasted pretty much half the generation, that Microsoft got roasted almost daily over not having games, over resolution, over price point. At the beginning of the generation, people were thinking that the Kinect was spying on you. So there was a lot of things that went against the Xbox One and from the start. So it's really nice to see that Microsoft was able to turn around all of that bad publicity through the entire generation and at least come close to what Sony is selling currently. Sure, we can put this on the stock. Maybe if Sony was able to produce more PS5s, they would be way ahead of the Xbox Series S and X. But you can actually turn that around as well. If Microsoft was able to produce more Xbox Series S's and X's, then the X's wouldn't always be sold out and S's wouldn't be sold out in some areas. Now, I do know that you can get an Xbox Series S if you drive a little bit. Maybe it's at your local Best Buy, but it's not as hard to come across them as it might have been something like an Xbox Series X or a PS5. Those are the hot products, and Xbox Series S's seem to be bought if they can't find another console, which is good for Microsoft. At the end of the day, a lot of people will settle when it comes to gaming consoles to something as long as they can play next-gen games. Now let's talk about what's going on right now with the Xbox Series S and X. They have of Game Pass is consistently giving you content throughout the months, and they have, you know, these studios that they bought. They have the Bethesda acquisition, and they have all the studios they bought before Bethesda popping out games. But I will say that they have a good momentum going right now. With Game Pass and these studios making games, people are buying Xboxes because they know something's going to be into the future, or they want to play those Game Pass games right now. But I do think that they need to do something right now to get us to those games. And they can't just rely on strictly these little indie games that come into Game Pass. Because I think when it comes to these smaller titles on Game Pass, that's something that's an appetizer. That's something that you come on that you've already gotten the Game Pass with because of another AAA product. And you see these smaller games, you're like, yo, those are cool, those are fun, and you're willing to try them out because you already have the subscription service, so you just download them. But I don't think a lot of those games is going to get a huge audience subscribing to Game Pass or buying an Xbox in general for Game Pass. I think what they need to do is they need to be more aggressive in AAA products right now that they don't own, and at least make sure they come into Game Pass day and date. For instance, Dying Light 2 is coming up soon. Microsoft, need to be on the phone with them. Make sure that that is your February game. Maybe Elden Ring. Maybe if you can do both, that would be amazing. They need to do more stuff like this. They need to be a little bit more open on what's going on with their internal studios as well. We don't know what's going on with Fable, Avowed, Hellblade 2. We've seen a little bit of Hellblade 2, but we haven't seen a whole lot. I've said on this channel multiple times, they also need to make more diversity in terms of what's on their platform. They miss out on a lot of JRPGs because of Sony being very aggressive in that area, and they need to be aggressive to combat Sony being aggressive and try to get more games that's exclusively on their platform to try to entice these PlayStation gamers to come over and buy an Xbox so they can play these games. It was no secret that PlayStation did fantastic last generation, and they got a huge audience that's naturally going to go from the PS4 to the PS5, and a good way of getting some of those people is to have exclusive content that you can only play on Xbox and PC, obviously, but we're generally talking about the average consumer base. And if you get something as aggressive as maybe, you know, a Mistwalker game such as like Lost Odyssey 2, or you're able to, you know, get Persona 6 on Game Pass day and date, which, you know, I generally want them to stick to try to get an exclusive, but Game Pass games will do it just as well because it gives you an incentive to buy that, because you know that you're not going to have to buy that actual game. You just have to get the console. But I think that, you know, for right now, I would want them to try to get exclusive JRPGs so they can get that consumer base, that gamer set that's over there on the PlayStation 5 to come over to the Xbox, because at the end of the day, multiple people own multiple consoles. Gamers own multiple consoles by far, and I think Microsoft needs to try to fight for that second console in the living room right now. And with Game Pass, because they've gotten them over because of their exclusive games that they went out there and fought for, they can use Game Pass to leverage that living room and become the primary console of the living room. And that's just my opinion. I don't know exactly if that's something that's relatively possible, but I do think they need to be more aggressive in that type of market. And I think the last thing I'm going to talk about is, you know, acquisitions. We don't really need to necessarily focus a whole lot on acquisitions, but if you want to announce some high quality studios that you've bought throughout this year, then go ahead and do that. I don't think it's really going to hurt anything. I think people like a roadmap. People like seeing what studios are making games for the platform that you purchased. So if you do have those and it's ready to announce, just announce it this year sometime. Sure, you can do it at E3, but I feel like you might not want to wait that long because you're going to want to try to capitalize some sales of your consoles at the beginning of the year. And right now it is a little lacking in terms of, you know, exclusive games coming to the platform, but it was lacking last year too. And I felt like Microsoft had a killer year last year. Sure, you don't have to have the best year. You have to have a good year to actually throw out some units. And I think Microsoft did that well last year. And I think they need to try to do something similar this year, but maybe be a little bit more aggressive. If you have acquisitions, tell them. If you can get some of these games like Dying Light on a Game Pass, go over there and talk to them. You know, we did get the Rainbow Six spin-off game saying. That's awesome, and I think that's going to drive Game Pass a little bit, but you need to do more than that because content is key, Microsoft, and you know that. And let's be real here. Right now, the content's a little bit lacking on your side because some of your studios are not ready to release their games. Game Pass is going to help you dramatically, and I will say that because at the end of the day, you're not complaining that you don't have any exclusive games to play if you're constantly getting a stream of games to play on Game Pass. But I think, why not stop at one? Let's do both. And that's just my opinion on what they can do to continue this momentum going on with 2022. And you know, that's just my opinion, guys. But tell me in the comment section what you guys think they should do to really gain that momentum. I'm very curious to hear you guys' opinion. And until next time, this is Gaming Addict. I'm out of here. Peace.